Right, good afternoon, everyone. We're present in case number 2020 CF 2361, State of Florida versus Lori Shaver. With the parties present, please identify themselves for the record.
Nick Camuccio on behalf of the state.
Rich Buxman for the state.
Jeffrey Wiggs on behalf of Lori Shaver.
Lori Filmer, previously known as Lori Shaver.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give today shall be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. All right, and we are here for sentencing today.
Right here is where everything shifts. This is no longer about what happened. It's about consequences. Sentencing hearings are where the court weighs not just a crime, but the human damage left behind. And as you'll hear, that damage is enormous.
All right, please proceed.
Here I do have a copy of the score sheet.
I've reviewed it.
All right, any objections to the score sheet, Mr. Wiggs?
No, Your Honor.
What you're about to hear isn't evidence. It's impact. Legally, victim impact statements don't decide guilt, but emotionally, they often shape how harsh a sentence becomes. This is where the family finally gets a voice.
And Your Honor, there are a couple of victim impact statements, and one of the victim's family members would like to give a statement here.
Certainly. Please come up to the podium. Please state your name for the record.
Brian Douglas Shaver.
All right, please proceed, sir.
All right, dear Judge, the senseless and tragic murder of Michael Douglas Shaver has left an irreparable void in all of our lives. The devastating loss has not only taken away a beloved family member, but also deeply impacted his two innocent children. Michael Shaver was a son, a brother, a father, an uncle, and a friend. He was a kind, loving, and humorous soul. He cherished his family and friends more than anything. Despite the challenges he faced, he always found a way to connect with those he loved. However, his life was tragically cut short at the young age of 33. Lori Shaver's manipulative and narcissistic behavior isolated Michael from his family and friends, depriving us of a chance to be part of his life. Her actions not only led to his tragic death, but also perpetuated a harmful narrative that tarnished his memory and caused further pain to his loved ones.
Let that sink in. This isn't just about a killing. It's about what came after. In sentencing, post-crime behavior matters. Cover-ups, deception, and dragging children into a lie, courts see that as a window into remorse or the lack of it. Backhand index pointing right, do you think actions after crime should matter as much as a crime itself?
Especially his children. Her actions did not stop the day she took his life and buried him within sight in her backyard. She continued to make choices that would impact both Michael's memory and the people around him for years to come. From stealing his identity, impersonating his likeness, marrying a new husband over his body, and putting the weight of a terrible tragedy on the shoulders of his daughter, having her to maintain that lie for years. Lori Shaver's actions not only ended Michael's life, but also stole his future. She deprived him of the chance to live life to its fullest, raise his children, spend time with his family, experience personal growth. For the past 9 years, she has walked free, while we have endured the pain of his absence and relived the events through the investigation. She has witnessed the growth of his children, all while shaping their perspective of him with lies and distortions. These stolen years can never be returned, and the void left in our lives is immeasurable. The impact of Lori Shaver's actions will ever...
Quick legal breakdown. Hearsay is usually banned at trial, but sentencing is different. Judges are allowed to hear broader information here, even opinion and secondhand accounts, as long as it helps assess punishment.
Will forever scar our family. We mourn the loss of Michael and grieve for his children, who has been robbed of their father's love and guidance. The loss of Michael is a wound that will never fully heal. While justice may offer some solace, it cannot restore the life that was stolen or mend the broken hearts left behind. Judge, we thank you for your time and consideration as you make this sentencing judgment regarding the heinous crime against Michael Douglas Shaver from the Shaver family. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, I do have two other statements from friends of Mr. Shaver. First being Randolph Bean. To whom it may concern and all...
Object to hearsay statement during sentencing hearing.
Hearsay is admissible in sentencing, Judge.
Overruled. Please proceed.
To whom it may concern and all who may have need to view it. This document is an impact statement against Lori Shaver, who murdered her husband, Mike Shaver. Forgive me if it's too blunt or angry as I cut through my own anger to most clearly express my points. I beg your tolerance in this not being the typical statement going on at length about how much I miss my friend. I'm that annoying OCD guy that can't turn his mind off, notices everything and annoys everyone over details without trying to. I'm also the guy that's almost impossible to impress, so my feeling of Mike's merit is a rare thing for me to award anyone or thing. I can assure you I'm a lot nicer to talk to than read serious statements written by. Please bear with me as this document is at least now far shorter than the original 63 pages it started as. First, the victim himself, Mike Shaver. I knew and worked with him as a member of a very elite unlimited class air racing team for the most highly modified P-51 Mustang in history. Through that, I came to know that Mike had been a working commercial pilot at the start of a career, flying local commuter flights in a turboprop aircraft. This requires the rating, the hours, and also know of both piston and gas turbine engines to qualify for the job. He obtained his rating initially with financial help from his parents at Lori's insistence, and to separate from friends and family so as to control him, she demanded they move to Florida. He did so and was unable to find regional work as a pilot and thus took a job maintaining monorails at Disney. There he was noted as a great and reliable worker. Maintaining his interest in aviation, he volunteered for the PM race team. While not a certified AP, he is allowed under FAA rules to work on experimental class of aircraft. I saw and worked with him on things as diverse as a complete rewire of aircraft, rebuilding landing gear, custom constructing a carbon fiber canopy to reduce drag, and of course, internal work on the Rolls-Royce Griffin engine. This Mustang is only the third one so modified, and the other two were destroyed while racing. As a machine, he worked on literally the most advanced unlimited class racer ever built. He was not some ignorant flunky stuck with a dead-end job as a mechanic just out from under the shade tree of skill. I say this to illustrate that he was incredibly intelligent. At our last races, Mike, myself, and one other discussed forming a team for the IF1 class, known as the entry level to air racing. Mike, given his small stature, would have also been the pilot. He had agreed to pursue the idea. Friendship and shared tasks impressed me that he was an incredibly intelligent and funny person. You couldn't meet a nicer guy. I enjoyed getting to know him and looked forward to the future friendship and plans we shared, all now shattered and gone. As to him being a person and parent, I can say that I've never met a man so worried about the welfare of his children. He endured all, including being murdered in hopes of protecting them. As a result, he was a badly battered husband, always bearing the brunt of Lori's outbursts and physical attacks. The court had only one instance to work with, and a bad one at that. Just after the event, I asked Mike why he went to jail when she attacked and overwhelmed him. The photos clearly showed him with bleeding head trauma, torn clothing, and disoriented look. His statement to me was, the police showed up and I told them that she had threatened all of us with her gun. I was scared she would hurt the kids, so I tried to take it away from her. She hit me repeatedly in the head with the gun, ripped off my pocket trying to get the truck keys, and broke a bunch of other stuff too. The police listened to her and seemed to think I was abusing her and told us that they had to arrest somebody as it was a domestic violence case. I thought it would be best to protect the kids by not having their mother go to jail, so I agreed to be arrested. It was noted in the trial he had moved into a room at the hangar without explanation. He did so to remain close to the children as possible. Literally everyone on our team urged him to leave her ASAP, but he realized a domestic violence arrest would easily put the kids back in her care. Based on that, he tried to create a peace with her and moved back in. When I asked why, which nobody else did, he told me, I want to be there to protect my kids. If he had any failing, it was in self-preservation. If you can't survive for yourself, you can't be there for anyone else. That's why I say I have never seen a man more dedicated to his children than Mike. If spirits exist after this life, I'm sure his is gutted at the lies and brainwashing used on his daughter. Those of us who know them all 100% know that things stated she claimed to have done so were impossible simply based on her tiny size at the time. He was a smart, funny, caring, and wonderful man. The world is truly a worse place without him in it. I think of him often, and the pain and frustration of his murder leaves me angry every time. Time has not lessened the pain. Since Mike's murder, an openly diverse group of his friends have reached out and found each other. For example, his long-term middle and high school girlfriend described how hurt she was that Lori stole him away from her. She wasn't angry at him, in fact, maintaining that he was an awesome guy and she wished she had never lost him. Even then, she feared for his safety, and she was proven right. So many you will never hear from miss him. Mike himself was very guarded, but the small amount of information he admitted proved yet again Lori cares for nobody and will do whatever it takes, including murder, to please herself. I implore and demand you impose the harshest sentence that can be constructed. Punish her for the murder and the roundabout chaos and pain she caused all around her. It isn't about my personal feelings of loss. Those compose only a tiny part of the reason for the harsh sentence. It's about repeating the mistakes of so many legal system failures I have seen. Mike, a good man, was done so very wrong, and all the other abused husbands with no place to turn for help, you were their only chance. Randolph Bean. Also have a statement from a Scott Skrzycki.
It's just for the record, same objection as to the hearsay and the opinion testimony at this.
Overruled.
Your Honor, Lori Shaver has demonstrated multiple times her lack of remorse or resentment pertaining to the crimes she has committed. Lori has willingly and without one single ounce of guilt damaged her children mentally by influencing them through instruction and uttering false statements since she murdered Michael in a feeble attempt to mask her crimes. Lori assumed Michael's online identity, posing as Michael to myself, his other friends, and family to gain additional privilege of prolonged freedom, lengthening the time before she was able to be held accountable for her crimes. We will never get Michael back, and her family will never get his children's innocence back. Lori's inhuman, ruthless, and savage actions, and especially her lack of any repentance, indicate that she will never change. If the time and place ever come where Lori will be returned to society, that she deliberately and knowingly tried to deceive and attempt to falsify her innocence, I fully expect she will again incite bedlam and turmoil with whomever she associates with. She expects life to be a one-way street for her and in her favor. She has proven that when things do not go her way, there is no limit to the actions she is willing to take. I humbly and respectfully ask the court to impose the harshest sentence that is possible. Thank you, Scott Skrzycki. Your Honor, I do want to say that there have been various references within these victim impact statements and also in the pre-sentence investigation that talk about the fact that Ms. Shaver, now Ms. Filmer, has shown a total lack of remorse for her actions.
This is critical. Notice how the prosecutor draws a legal line. He's not punishing her for claiming innocence. He's pointing to her actions after the killing. That distinction matters, and it's exactly what courts are allowed to consider.
I want to be clear that as far as any statements about that lack of remorse, especially from the PSI and the statements that I made, have nothing whatsoever to do with her expressing her innocence, maintaining her innocence, asking for a trial, asking for the jury to determine what the facts of this case are. That would be completely inappropriate and not an appropriate thing for the court to take in consideration for sentencing. When I talk about her lack of remorse, I refer to the actions that she took after her killing of her husband and all the actions that she took to help cover that up. That includes lying to friends and family members, acting as if Michael Shaver was still alive, knowing full well what she had done. And those lies and manipulation extended not only to friends and family members of Michael Shaver, but his own children. When I discuss her lack of remorse, that is what I am discussing, and that is something permissible for the court to consider her actions leading up to her arrest. Ms. Shaver is quite possibly the most manipulative defendant I have ever had charged with murder, and the extent that she went to cover her tracks deserved the harshest penalty, and I ask for life in prison on this case.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Wiggs.
Yes, Judge, I'll just briefly summarize some of the evidence, ask the court to consider such evidence that the court heard before it throughout the trial. I'd point out to the court that Ms. Shaver was not convicted of an accessory, as the state may allude to, but we heard evidence in this manner. There was digital evidence that was presented by the state. In advance of trial, I'd moved to exclude the digital data inasmuch as Facebook did not have any connective links as to the evidence, could not be linked to an IP address, a user, a location, or a device. Likewise, there was no business record certificate offered by the state to authenticate the records. Instead, they just simply declared the records did not exist at this time. Despite that, the court allowed such evidence. Likewise, there was, aside from a lack of a connective link between Lori Shaver and any physical evidence, what seemed to be the body of the state's case, there was a couple cards that were testified to. Defense counsel moved to exclude that, claiming that there was no handwriting analysis that had been conducted, and I think that's Proctor. That was in my motion, and nobody that could testify as to the authentication of the handwriting. That was read into evidence by a witness, wasn't simply ushered into evidence, but was read into evidence. And that had no connective link offered during the trial to Lori Shaver. Likewise, there was reference to a sale of guns. Not one single gun that the state elicited testimony about had any actual involvement in the crime itself. I'd filed a pretrial motion on that to exclude it, and I think the relevant case was a case, I believe it was Agathis, that should be excluded. A case was appealed and reversed on that same basis itself. There was a gun that was actually entered into evidence by the state. The expert claiming that it had no connective link, it was just the type of gun. It had characteristics of the gun. No different than taking a picture of a white man or a black person leaving the scene of a crime and say he was this color. That was the connective link that the state relied upon. It had no probative value in this matter. Simply offered as prejudicial impact. Court will remember there was no connective link between the gravesite and Lori Shaver. There was no DNA. There was no any clothing, anything that had a connective link to Lori Shaver in the form of DNA, hair samples, or anything in that matter. The state, you may recall, tried to downplay this. I think it was Mr. Buxman questioning the witness, saying, well, you're not surprised that there's no link between that given the degraded condition of the straps that were found in the grave, ignoring the fact that possibly there was no connective link, being there was never at any time any DNA or evidence on those straps. The same way with the tarp. There was a blue tarp. Reminded the court that I brought out on cross-examination, the state did not take it upon themselves to do any kind of forensic analysis to see who, if anybody, had purchased that tarp. Nor did they do any DNA analysis on that tarp to see if it had been drug across the ground or how it got to the gravesite. I would bring that to the attention of the court. There was also testimony, unrefuted, from the medical examiner that there were buccal swabs connected to Michael Shaver, which indicated that there had been some force or trauma at a point post-death or after the death of Michael Shaver. It was testified, and the court heard testimony that the boyfriend at that time, Mr. Townsend, had, they believe, removed the body only to return it later. There was no evidence that Lori Shaver had moved the body, and that could not be accounted for. That was brought out in evidence. It was likewise objected to throughout the trial continuously as to the form of the introduction by the state. I brought to the attention of the court that the state entirely relied on circumstantial claims of evidence. And that would be, it was always everything the state declared was going to be a timeline link, anything that came into evidence, whether it was the gun, whether it was the sale of guns, whatever it was, that would be their claim. I presented to the court a case, Smith versus Carlisle, which went back through the history of circumstantial evidence and reinstated a case called Volcker. And there the Supreme Court had declared if the state's going to rely on circumstantial evidence, there must be a foundation for that evidence that's not subject to any other reasonable interpretation except that of guilt. At no time did the state throughout this trial, not one single time, did they establish any foundation upon which these circumstantial claims were based. And that instead they argued to the jury in their closing it was just a totality of these circumstances that they could hang their verdict upon. Now, we understand there's a minimum mandatory of 25 years in this case, Judge, and the court can impose a life sentence in this case. Based on the evidence, the undisputed facts, as I've just brought to the attention of the court, we'd ask for the minimum mandatory of 25 years be imposed against Lori Shaver. That would be our recommendation to the court at this stage. And Ms. Shaver, I know in the PSI she had sent the court a letter as to her feelings, impressions, and her sentiment about the matter. I presume it's made a part of the record for purposes of the sentencing, and I presume that the court has reviewed that as well.
I have reviewed the letter, Mr. Wiggs.
Thank you, Judge.
Is there anything further?
And I sympathize with the family that's here. I know they have heartfelt feelings about it and emotions. It's not testimony in the sense that it's offered anything.
There it is. Life in prison. No ambiguity. After years of deception, testimony, and grief, this is the court's final word. The question now isn't guilt. It's whether justice in any form can ever truly feel complete. Brain, was life the right sentence here? Or should sentencing be handled differently in cases like this?
To establish the state's case. And I am sympathetic as to the scenario that they found themselves. The court would be reminded, though, and also in this case, that there was evidence of physical abuse by Mr. Shaver. And there was nothing that really contradicted that in this trial. I'd bring that to the attention of the court as well. And I think all these facts would justify at least the minimum mandatory imposition.
All right. Does your client wish to address the court?
Do you need 1 second? You said it in your letter. I wouldn't say anything. Okay. No, she doesn't, Judge.
Okay. Is there anything further?
Nothing further from the defense.
Anything further from the state?
No, sir.
Please present your client for sentencing.
Shaver.
All right. Lori Shaver Filmer, in case number 2020 CF 2361, having been found guilty by a jury of your peers of the offense of murder in the second degree with a firearm and having been adjudicated guilty of the offense of murder in the second degree with a firearm, the court hereby sentences you to a term of life in the Florida Department of Corrections. Standard fines, fees, and costs will be assessed. Mandatory court costs will be assessed. You will have 30 days to appeal. Do you wish to have appellate counsel appointed?
Yes, Judge, and I've prepared motions for the court. At this stage, I filed 2 notices of appeal. The clerk sent one prematurely to the DCA, and it got returned. I advised them that the state had inadvertently sent it in advance of the sentencing. So that was returned yesterday. I filed was dated or identified as a second notice of appeal, and I've sent the clerk a letter, wait to the sentencing to send this. I've likewise filed with the court a motion for appointment of declare the defendant indigent for costs and to request that the public defender's office be appointed. The JAC has received the pleading. They said they have no input on the matter, and they've been noticed for the hearing as well.
All right. State have any objection?
No.
Okay. Well, Court will appoint appellate counsel for Miss Lori Shaver-Filmer.
Very well.
All right. Do you have a proposed order?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a proposed order, if I may.
Madam Clerk has an order, Mr. Wiggs, so we'll use the order that Madam Clerk has prepared.
And Your
Is there
Honor,
anything further from the state?
just real briefly, as a matter, when you refer to the standard costs, that would include the $100 cost of prosecution.
Yes, $100 cost of prosecution will be imposed.
Thank you, sir.
Judge, one thing, and I know it's not it's not binding on DOC, but the court can state in an input that as to placement, Ms. Filmer at this stage has requested that the court recommend placement at the Gadsden facility in North Florida for family visitation at this stage.
State have any objection?
No, that's completely up to the Department of Corrections.
And again, that is up to the discretion of the Department of Corrections. The court can merely make a recommendation, and it is so recommended that Miss Lori Shaver-Filmer be housed at Gadsden
Thank you,
Correctional.
Judge. Thank you.
Is there anything further from the parties?
Yes, sir.
Nothing from
Wiggs?
the defense.
There's
Thank
nothing further than we'll adjourn.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
Judge, I'm sorry, while
Okay.
while we're all present still, just for purposes of the record and preservation, I'd renew all the pretrial motions to renew my motion for judgment of acquittal and judgment notwithstanding the verdict for purposes of the appeal. I don't think it's necessary, but I just do it on the record at this stage.
Any response from the state? All right.
Okay.
And all prior motions were respectfully denied.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.